The darkness settles around the words "one day," signaling the start of a new timeline where Yoojin's wish has finally been granted. He steps forward into this fresh reality, hoping to finally live the quiet life he desired, though he now holds the power to reshape the world around him. The darkness clears to reveal a blinding portal, as gates suddenly pop up all across the globe. Two travelers stand amidst a snow-covered landscape, gazing upward at a swirling, blue portal that defies the natural world. A voice confirms that this strange phenomenon is not an isolated event, noting that similar occurrences have been observed in every corner of the planet. The strange rift has manifested once more in a dusty, sun-drenched street, where a group of onlookers watches in stunned silence as a dark, swirling vortex tears open the sky above a parked van. The narrator explains that despite the terrifying sight, these occurrences have so far proven to be relatively harmless. The dark, swirling rift hangs suspended in the sky above the bustling city street, casting a faint, ethereal glow over the scene. Despite the ominous magical disturbance tearing open the heavens, pedestrians calmly cross the intersection and cars drive along the road as if nothing unusual is happening. The news anchor reports on the escalating situation, noting that experts are still struggling to identify the causes of the disturbances. With over 20 such anomalies now appearing across the country, public concern continues to rise despite the calm demeanor of the citizens. The news ticker confirms a gate has been found in Jeju, and looking up, a massive, swirling blue portal has violently manifested in the sky above the city. On a nearby rooftop, a group of researchers stands in stunned silence, gazing upward at the terrifying phenomenon that has torn open the heavens. As the massive portal tears open the heavens above the city, a dark, energy-charged object begins to drift down from the sky. The research community watches in stunned silence, debating if these mysterious artifacts are somehow linked to the cryptid reports flooding in from across the globe. The voice of a technician cuts through the tension, declaring that the mysterious artifacts have successfully descended and are now ready for inspection. The city stands in a hushed silence, watching as the strange objects settle into the urban landscape, marking the beginning of a new, uncertain era. 8 years had passed since the reset, and the city of Seoul, Korea, stood before him under a bright sky, marking the new reality where Yoojin sought to finally live a quiet life. He stands in the quiet streets of the new Seoul, casually manipulating a swirl of green energy in his palm to demonstrate his restored power. He then turns his attention to a strange, glowing interface, questioning if the system is truly active in this reset timeline. Yoojin gestures toward the glowing green interface hovering above his hand, explaining to the surprised reporter that this is a status window visible only to its owner. The reporter looks on in disbelief as the system interface materializes in the air, confirming that the mysterious powers he possesses are indeed active in this new timeline. The reporter, overwhelmed by the sudden manifestation of the system interface, excitedly compares the experience to stepping inside a video game. A skilled description for Green Thumb appears on screen, detailing its ability to grow trees within the effective range. Yoojin activates the skill, and the ground shakes violently as massive, glowing trees erupt around him, crushing him under their weight with a deafening rumble. The massive, glowing tree roots hang suspended in the air, creating a surreal canopy that leaves the onlookers staring upward in stunned silence. A voice cries out in amazement, confirming that this is the true extent of the awakened skill. The sudden emergence of the massive trees prompts an exclamation about the protagonist's past heroism, with a voice noting that he used to save all those people. The scene then shifts to a flashback, revealing that Guildmaster was unemployed at the time of the dungeon shock 8 years ago. The scene depicts a woman surrounded by dark, twisting vines as text explains that perhaps thanks to her affinity with the mold and moss growing in her messy home, she developed phytokinesis during her awakening. She recently used this power to save civilians. She chuckles softly, admitting that her sudden intervention to save people from a collapsing building was just an impulsive act she didn't fully realize at the time, which has now officially landed her a new role as a hunter. She is now part of a small guild, posing cheerfully with her teammates as she explains that they make a living by clearing dungeons where everything found can fetch a fortune. The guildmaster admits that while the work is dangerous, the pay is far superior to other jobs, with high-grade dungeons offering the chance to hit the jackpot. The true fortune they seek, however, is actually the rare new materials found exclusively within these dungeons. Floating amidst a purple, starry background, the guildmaster explains that these mana stones are super pricey because they can't be found anywhere else in the world. Consequently, he notes that capable hunters can quickly make a fortune by collecting these rare gems. The guildmaster's explanation hangs in the air as the group looks up at the floating, glowing crystals suspended in the magical atmosphere. He points out that, while these stones are incredibly expensive, S-rank hunters are uniquely positioned to earn a fortune by clearing the dangerous dungeons where they are found. The guildmaster introduces the most famous S-ranker, Yoojin Han, who was merely a high school student when he awakened during the dungeon shock. This legendary figure is the very type of powerhouse capable of earning a fortune by clearing the dangerous dungeons where they are found. The scene transitions to a flashback where a group emerges from a blinding light, accompanied by a narration explaining how Yoohyun grew up orphaned and poor before establishing his own guild. The blinding light reveals a young man standing tall, hailed as the country's youngest guildmaster who, at just 25 years old, is rumored to have amassed an astronomical amount of wealth, prompting a companion to ask Yumi if she has become rich as well. A reporter interviews a woman who admits that as an E-ranker, she can only dream of the astronomical wealth the young guildmaster has amassed. She smiles with determination, vowing that she will surely save up enough if she keeps working hard. The broadcast cuts to a news report confirming the tragic death of hunter Yumi Choi, a guest on the show who succumbed to wounds from a recent dungeon raid, while a thought bubble reveals her hope to pay her siblings' tuition. The broadcast displays footage of rescue teams transporting her body to the hospital, confirming that Choi did not recover despite early treatment. Experts note that her death serves as a stark reminder that despite the high rewards of being a hunter, the profession comes at a devastating cost. The broadcast confirms the grim reality of the profession, leaving Yoojin to sit alone in the shadows, his resolve crumbling as he clutches his face in despair. The broken bottle and discarded phone on the floor serve as silent witnesses to his overwhelming grief and the heavy burden of his new power. The sharp VOOM sound effect signals a sudden, violent impact, likely the beast crashing through the truck's window as the ambush begins. A massive, crackling portal tears open in the sky above the underpass, bathing the stunned onlookers in blinding purple light and accompanied by a deafening VOOM. This sudden manifestation of a global gate marks the terrifying reality of the reset timeline, forcing everyone to witness the dawn of a new, dangerous era. The massive portal churns with unstable energy, drawing the gaze of the stunned onlookers below who watch in awe. Amidst the chaos, a voice calls out to their leader, "Hey, boss," while two armed companions sit nearby, anxiously asking if he is listening before he responds. What is it? Despite his desire to live quietly, the leader's frustration boils over as he berates the group for bringing a wimp along on the raid, while a nearby companion recognizes the slumped figure as Yoojin Han, the infamous F-ranker. Recognized by a nearby companion, Yoojin Han is introduced as the infamous F-ranker and custodian. He nervously chuckles, asking for some slack because he has to make a living too. Yoojin nervously interjects, claiming he couldn't care less about the buffs being offered, a desperate attempt to deflect attention from his own sudden and overwhelming power. The atmosphere is thick with disdain as a hunter, in red aggressively, declares that no other guild would pay such a high price to bring a leech along. His companion tells him to cut it out, annoyed by the harsh judgment. The hunter's disdain deepens as he spits out cruel words about the survivor's luck, claiming the man is a parasite who brings bad luck to every party he joins. Yoojin stands silently amidst the gloom, absorbing the harsh judgment that his younger brother is a jinx rather than a capable hunter. The hunter's gloved hands hold Yoojin's bare ones as he sneers that the brother must have abandoned him just like everyone else. He claims that the fancy little brother left him behind, cementing the cruel belief that Yoojin is nothing more than a parasite who brings bad luck wherever he goes. The hunter's friends confirm his worst fears, showing him an article that claims the brother never even visited him at the hospital after breaking his legs. They mock the brother as a dirtbag for abandoning him, solidifying the hunter's belief that he is nothing more than a parasite. Overwhelmed by the cruelty of his friend's words and the reality of his brother's abandonment, Yoojin snaps, grabbing the man in the red jacket by the collar and demanding, "That's enough already." Yoojin's anger boils over as he screams that the man in the red jacket has absolutely nothing to do with the raid. The man stammers nervously, raising his hands in a defensive gesture and asking if he has made Yoojin angry. Yoojin unleashes his pent-up rage, delivering a devastating kick that connects with the man in the red jacket. "You don't know who you're messing with," he shouts as the impact sends the intruder flying backward. The impact sends a sharp yank through the body, causing the bandaged man to cry out in agony. Meanwhile, the man in the red jacket grabs another man by the throat, laughing mockingly at his victim's struggle while insulting his lack of ability. His voice dripping with condescension, he asks the terrified man if an F-ranker truly believes they can challenge a D-ranker, before taunting him to run away to save himself. With a heavy thud, the man falls backward into the dust as the D-ranker gestures mockingly, telling him to go tell his brother. The bystander adds that the D-ranker gets all salty whenever someone brings up his brother. The battered man coughs up blood, cursing under his breath as a glowing hand presses against his chest. A D-ranker mocks his condition, noting how battered he looks even before they enter the dungeon. The battered man looks up in surprise as the younger man, Yoojin, explains that he has hardened the man's bones, a specialty of his own, though it won't fully heal his legs. He assures the man that this reinforcement should make it easier to move around for the next few days. The man looks down with a somber expression, admitting that despite Yoojin's help, the damage is beyond repair, and he must accept the situation as it stands. The man's tone remains dismissive as he advises the F-ranker that he simply has to endure the situation, no matter how difficult it becomes. Yoojin, identifiable by the bandage on his nose, looks up to hear the blunt reality of his low rank. Yoojin flashes a wide, eager grin, eagerly agreeing to the arrangement with a tone of forced enthusiasm. He declares that he is grateful to be allowed to tag along, hoping to prove his worth despite his low rank. Yoojin clasps the other person's hand, hesitating slightly as he asks for confirmation before apologizing for the trouble caused by the situation and the necessity of mediating between them. The warm, glowing light surrounding their joined hands highlights the sincerity of his words as he seeks to make amends for the chaos they've been involved in. Encouraging him to keep going, the man promises that the path ahead will be worth the struggle, his face glowing with a determined intensity as he speaks. Yoojin listens quietly, his expression serious and bandaged, absorbing the reassurance in the wake of their recent turmoil. The man offers a rare moment of validation, telling Yoojin that he is the only one who truly understands the hardships of their line of work, prompting a quiet, grateful response from the younger hunter. The scene is abruptly interrupted by a shout from an off-screen observer, who angrily commands the man to stop bullying Yoojin, while a caption identifies the speaker as a walking encyclopedia. The walking encyclopedia, a towering figure leaning on a crutch, delivers a sudden strike to the man in blue, who cries out in pain and confusion at the unexpected violence. Yoojin watches the confrontation unfold, his mind drifting to check the custodianship of the situation. The system interface flares with a blue glow as a notification declares that Guildmaster Seokwoo Lim has fallen under your custody. The man in blue stands frozen in shock while the blonde character mutters, "Leech, bad omen," amidst a situation that feels undeniably life-sucking. The harsh reality of being called a parasite settles in his mind, confirming that the world sees him as a drain on those around him. Despite the heavy weight of that label, the urgency to move on cuts through the self-loathing as he is urged to join the others in leaving this scene behind. Yoojin limped forward on his crutches toward the massive, glowing blue gate, the sound of the rift opening echoing as the others shouted in anticipation of what was coming. The sound of the rift opening echoed as Yoojin paused, his internal monologue acknowledging the strange power coursing through him. He muttered to himself, "Call it what they like. I couldn't have survived this long without this skill," realizing that his new S-rank ability was the only thing keeping him alive in this chaotic new world. The party has crossed the threshold into the dungeon, the heavy gate slamming shut behind them with a deafening whoosh. Two massive, bat-like beasts with glowing green eyes screech loudly as they swoop down to attack the party inside the dungeon. Yoojin braces his shield against the fiery onslaught as the beast roars above, while his green magic flares to counter the attack with a powerful blast of his own. He proves his worth to the party, showing that he is not just a parasite but a capable hunter in his own right. Yoojin warns Frosty to stay alert, cautioning that monsters can pop out from anywhere in the dungeon. Frosty brushes off the concern with a confident remark, noting that they are experienced veterans and the current enemies are just low-level grade D monsters. The group advances through the cavernous corridor, navigating the dimly lit path as one of them casually remarks on the dungeon's appearance. Yoojin walks alongside them, keeping a watchful eye on the surroundings despite the casual conversation about the environment. Yoojin lies back and laughs, recalling the terrifying events of the dungeon shock where his party was paralyzed by fear. He makes a lighthearted comment about how they used to panic at these creatures, highlighting the contrast between their past trauma and their current reality. Two hunters examine a glowing crystal that has just fallen from a dungeon gate, remarking that they had no idea the resources would be so profitable. The hunters express their excitement over the large mana stone they just found, noting that even a grade D stone is worth a fortune, before Yoojin turns his attention to Frankie to ask how the mining is progressing. Yoojin looks at the small, glowing crystal in his hand with a confused expression, realizing that despite the excitement of the other hunters, he has only managed to find worthless scraps. He holds up the small, glowing object, questioning why his efforts yield nothing of value compared to the fortune others are making. The senior hunter asserts his claim to the mana stones dropped by monsters, telling Yoojin to keep digging for scraps or leave with empty pockets. Yoojin sighs in resignation as the man threatens to punish him if he tries to pocket extra stones. The two women in elaborate dresses laugh maniacally, ordering Yoojin to finish his chores while they head to a ball, threatening to strip him naked and tie him to a pillar if he disobeys. Yoojin grits his teeth while holding a hammer, internally complaining that he is being treated like nothing more than a servant. Yoojin swings his pickaxe with a heavy crack, humming a song about a modern-day Cinderella as he toils away. His thoughts drift to a memory of someone who was orphaned as a child, reflecting on the hardships he faces. The narration confirms that he was orphaned as a child and abandoned by his little brother as well. Yoojin moved out after the incident, leaving Yoojin to face the world alone. The caption confirms this moment as his awakening, marking the point where he fully embraced the S-rank power coursing through him. He presses his hand against the wall, standing silently as he accepts the reality of his new life. Yoojin recalls begging his brother to stay safe because the world was too dangerous, but Yoohyun wouldn't listen. While Yoojin was drafted to the military, Yoohyun went on to recruit hunters to find a way forward. Yoohyun stands before the guild's emblem, having successfully gathered hunters to establish his own organization, Yoohyun. The group looks on as he prepares to lead them into the future. Yoohyun soon grew into the country's most powerful guild, a status that left the narrator feeling entirely abandoned. And just like that, he realized he was left behind in the shadow of his brother's success. Yoojin stands alone, gesturing as if trying to explain himself, but his brother and the rest of the group walk away, leaving him behind in the shadows of his own success. Left standing in the silence, he looks down with a heavy heart, his thoughts turning to a desperate wish that he could have been more than just a burden. Yoojin clenches his fist tightly, his internal monologue revealing a desperate wish to awaken like his brother. He explains that he quit his job and gave all his savings to a broker who promised to grant him that awakening. Yoojin admits to falling for a manipulator's lies, trusting that his brother's S-rank status would guarantee his safety. He reflects on how he was easily deceived by promises of protection, believing that his brother's reputation was enough to shield him from harm. Yoojin admits he was pretty much conned by the guy who got him the awakening, but the result is a disappointing F-rank. He stares at the document in disbelief, questioning how he could be so low compared to his brother, who is an S-ranker. A voice demands the guildmaster's brother cough up something he took, while the brother complains that the only result was pressed flack and a mountain of debt. Someone else reacts with shock, asking what he did again. A voice questions Yoojin about the title he received upon awakening, asking if it was truly custodian. Another voice expresses frustration, demanding to know how long Yoojin will continue to make them clean up the mess he leaves behind. The standing hunter sneers at the crouching Yoojin, asking if he is the custodian who raised an S-ranker before demanding to know how he can be so shameless. Yoojin remains silent, his head bowed as the accusation hangs heavy in the air. Yoohyun coldly rejects Yoojin's role as his caretaker, stating that Yoojin only serves to drag him down. He continues his harsh tirade, referring to Yoojin as his crappy brother. Yoojin recounts the time he broke his legs in a dungeon, only to be met with Yoohyun's sarcastic offer to lend him healers. His expression is one of disbelief and anger as he remembers Yoohyun's dismissive attitude towards his injury. A voice advises him that it is better for him to stop attempting the dangerous raids he cannot handle, urging him to keep a low profile instead. Yoojin listens quietly, his expression reflecting the heavy reality of his low rank and the pitying words directed at him. Yoojin shouts a defiant command to stop dragging him down, his voice echoing with the weight of his new resolve. The ground beneath him shatters with a violent crack as he unleashes his power, proving he is no longer a burden to be carried. Yoojin stands with a stoic expression, his face partially obscured by bandages as he watches the unfolding events around him. Despite the harsh reality of being overshadowed by his brother, he remains focused on his goal to live a quiet life while secretly wielding the power of an S-ranker. Yoojin accepts the party's disdain, rationalizing his survival as an anomaly in a deadly profession where hunters are killed on a daily basis. He questions his own worth as an F-ranker, acknowledging the harsh reality that he somehow persists despite the odds. Yoojin stands alone before the massive gate, his internal monologue echoing his disbelief at his own survival. He grips his tool tightly, ready to face whatever lies beyond the swirling rift. Yoojin elaborates that his survival hinges on a particular skill that lets him benefit from others. He reveals his new title, declaring himself a custodian. Yoojin explains that his awakening granted him the unique ability to take custody of the people around him. The group standing together illustrates the scope of this new power, showing that he can now protect and manage the lives of those in his vicinity. Yoojin sits quietly while a group of people stand around him, his narration explaining that his new custody ability literally includes his younger brother, Yoohyun, whom he has been protecting for years. Yoojin smiles as he shares a drink with his friends, noting that his new custody ability also includes the people he has grown close with. This confirms that his power protects not just his brother, but everyone he has formed bonds with. Yoojin activates his skill by saying the trigger phrase, "Hang in there," which instantly brings the people around him into his custody. Yoojin explains that once entities fall under his custody, he can provide a mild buff to their progress. He concludes that this is basically what he can do with his new custodian title. Yoojin grips the handle of a pickaxe, his gaze cast downward as he reflects on his limitations. He acknowledges that his current status as an F-ranker and the buffs he can offer are insufficient to ensure his survival in this dangerous line of work. Yoojin looks back at the chaotic memory of the dungeon break where his entire party was wiped out, leaving him as the sole survivor. He begins to explain the real secret behind his survival, a truth that defies the expectations of his low rank. Yoojin leans against a rock, watching the beast stand over his fallen companions to clarify that his survival wasn't a matter of luck or cowardice. He stands firm in the aftermath, revealing the truth behind the tragedy that left him as the sole survivor. The narrator reveals that there was one more hidden skill that came with the custodian title, and that was the skill that saved my life every time. The narrator reveals that this hidden skill was the one that saved his life even when everyone else was wiped out. The name of that skill is Blip. Yoojin activates his bonus skill, Final Thanks, which instantly transfers the target's skills and stats at double effectiveness. The nearby hunter is left stunned by the sudden surge of power, questioning how this could happen right now. Yoojin grips the tool tightly as a surge of golden energy erupts around his hands, accompanied by the resonant sound of SHAA and AAA. The intense light illuminates his determined expression as he channels the transferred power through the weapon. Yoojin grips the weapon tightly as a golden interface displays a muscle icon, confirming the massive power transfer. He realizes this overwhelming strength must belong to the fallen guildmaster Lim. Yoojin shouts in disbelief as the dungeon's difficulty far exceeds expectations, his pickaxe clanking against the ground as he realizes this was supposed to be a simple Grade D dungeon. The sudden realization of the threat level causes him to pause, his expression shifting from confidence to shock. Yoojin reveals that his hidden skill, Final Thanks, grants him the ability to use the skills and stats of the person under his custody. This ability allows him to overcome the dungeon's unexpected difficulty. The system confirms the activation of his hidden skill, granting him double effectiveness, albeit only for a temporary duration. Yoojin explains that his passive skill doubles his speed and strength relative to his opponent, allowing him to match even the most powerful targets. He realizes that this specific ability is the sole reason he managed to survive the harsh dungeon shocks and the ridicule of others for so long. Yoojin steps forward with a heavy sound, his expression shifting as he acknowledges the dark implications of his newfound power. He attributes this ominous side to the activation of his unique skill. The text box explains that his unique skill has a specific activation condition, functioning only when a particular individual is under his custody. The scene shows the rest of the group crossed out, highlighting that only the central figure meets the criteria for his power to awaken. Yoojin's shock is absolute as he realizes the guildmaster is standing right before him, his disbelief matching the frantic exclamation in his mind. He struggles to comprehend the situation, unable to believe that the powerful leader is the one he is currently with. Yoojin limps forward on his crutches, leaving a crimson trail of blood behind him as he walks toward the massive gate that stands before him. He accepts the burden of his new power, knowing that despite the world's disdain for his low rank, his awakened ability is the only thing keeping him alive in this chaotic new world. The scene shifts to a gruesome memory where a pool of blood stains the ground, surrounding the lifeless bodies of those who perished in the dungeon break. Yoojin watches in horror, his wide eye reflecting the terrifying reality of the massacre that claimed his brother's life. A monstrous growl fills the air as a comrade screams for help, while Yoojin stammers a plea to a superior in the face of the sudden, overwhelming danger. A massive dragon unleashes a terrifying roar, its glowing eye fixed on its prey as it tears a party member from the group. Yoojin watches in horror from below, realizing the gravity of the situation as the dungeon's true power reveals itself. Yoojin dangles helplessly in the air, his face streaked with blood as a monstrous figure looms above him. He cries out in disbelief, realizing that this place is supposed to be a grade D dungeon, yet the danger is far exceeding expectations. The group turns their fury on the F-Ranker, screaming that he is the ominous jinx responsible for their current predicament. Yoojin cries out in terror as the attack intensifies, his body torn apart by the brutal force of the assault. The massive beast unleashes a terrifying roar, revealing itself as Rochida's, the Dragon King of Venom and Curse. A terrified voice cries out for help as the creature's presence fills the dungeon with dread. The beast's terrifying presence is underscored by the declaration that nobody has ever slain one of its kind. As a Tier 1 dragon, it has been determined to be completely undefeatable. Yoojin stands amidst the carnage on his crutches, his eyes widening in disbelief as he surveys the massive beast looming over the fallen bodies. He shouts in shock, questioning why such a terrifying creature has appeared in this place. Yoojin stares in disbelief as the colossal Rochida's looms over the carnage, its serpentine neck rising from the ground with terrifying grace. The beast's glowing green eyes pierce the darkness, signaling the arrival of the Dragon King of Venom and Curse that the party had deemed undefeatable. The colossal Rochida's looms over the devastated landscape, its serpentine neck rising with terrifying grace as glowing green eyes pierce the darkness. Yoojin stares in disbelief, muttering, "No way." The walking encyclopedia, a tall hunter leaning on a crutch, shouts in disbelief, "This is a D-rank dungeon," as a monstrous, fanged beast looms menacingly in the shadows. The walking encyclopedia shouts in disbelief at the sight of Rochida's, a Tier 1 dragon, appearing in this D-rank dungeon, while the beast's menacing presence looms over the scene. The walking encyclopedia, clutching his crutch with a grimace of exertion, braces himself against the sheer weight of the looming Rochida's as the beast's massive, shadowy form crashes down with a thunderous impact. With a thunderous **voom** echoing through the dungeon, walking encyclopedia activates his skill Fortify Legs, instantly hardening his limbs to withstand the crushing weight of the descending Rochida's. The boss unleashes a D-rank buff to strengthen its limbs, allowing it to dash with terrifying speed as it charges forward. Yoojin, now under the custody of Rochida's, realizes he can utilize the beast's terrifying speed and venomous abilities at double their original power. Rochida's channels the dragon's terrifying speed to vanish into the shadows, fleeing deeper into the dungeon to escape the beast's reach. He resolves to find a way out of this dangerous labyrinth before the dragon can corner him. **Voom** unleashes a devastating, earth-shattering tail swipe that obliterates the dungeon floor, sending debris flying as Yoojin struggles to maintain his footing against the beast's overwhelming force. Rochida's unleashes a devastating tail swipe that obliterates the dungeon floor, sending debris flying as Yoojin struggles to maintain his footing against the beast's overwhelming force. Suddenly, the walking encyclopedia steps in with a powerful strike, his crutch acting as a weapon to intercept the beast's attack. **Voom** mentally strategizes against the beast's overwhelming tail swipe, considering how to use a defensive buff on his arms to intercept the attack. The walking encyclopedia is violently thrown backward by an unseen force, his crutch flying from his grasp as he tumbles through the air. The walking encyclopedia crashes onto the dungeon floor, his crutch shattering upon impact as the sound of a heavy splat echoes through the air. Yoojin Han, battered and bleeding, slumps against the dungeon wall as he realizes he is no match for Rochida's, even with the guildmaster's skills. Rochida slams his massive clawed feet onto the dungeon floor, the impact shaking the ground as Yoojin absorbs the beast's final memories into his mind. Rochida's unleashes a blinding burst of light from his chest, shouting that his potions are insufficient to contain the beast's power. Rochida's unleashes a blinding burst of light from his chest, shouting that his potions are insufficient to contain the beast's power. Yoojin Han braces himself, declaring he will buy them time before the creature strikes. Yoojin Han braces himself against the blinding light erupting from Rochida's chest, gritting his teeth as the beast shouts that its potions are insufficient to contain the surging power of the Dragon King. Rochida's, the Dragon King of Venom and Curse, slams his massive fist into the ground, his body trembling violently as he struggles to contain the surging power of the Dragon King within him. Rochida's, the Dragon King of Venom and Curse, slams his massive fist into the ground, his body trembling violently as he struggles to contain the surging power of the Dragon King within him. Rochidas, the Dragon King of Venom and Curse, roars with a terrifying intensity, his glowing eyes and sharp fangs bared as he unleashes a surge of power that shakes the very ground beneath him. Rochidas unleashes a deafening roar that shakes the ground, his massive jaws bared in a terrifying display of power. Rochidas unleashes a deafening roar that shakes the ground, causing the party to skid backward in panic as someone cries out, "Why Yoohyun?" Rochidas unleashes a deafening roar that shakes the ground, causing the party to skid backward in panic as someone cries out, "Why Yoohyun?" Yoojin, now under the beast's custody, steps forward to protect his party members while Rochidas prepares to strike. Yoojin activates his skill, summoning a swarm of glowing blue willow leaves that materialize into a spectral wisp to aid his party against the beast. Yoojin unleashes a torrent of glowing blue willow leaves, forming a spectral wisp that surges forward to shield his party from the beast's attack. Yoojin plants his feet firmly on the glowing ritual circle, channeling his immense S-Rank power into a massive, crystalline blade that erupts from the ground to shatter the incoming assault. The sheer force of the attack, amplified by his hidden abilities, creates a blinding explosion of blue energy that neutralizes the threat before it can reach his party. Yoojin unleashes a blinding blue energy from his feet, propelling himself forward with a powerful dash to intercept the charging dragon beast. He leaps into the air, striking the creature with a crystalline blade to shatter its assault before it can reach his party. Yoojin intercepts the charging dragon beast with a crystalline blade, shattering its assault with a powerful strike that echoes through the dungeon. Yoojin Han intercepts the charging dragon beast with a crystalline blade, shattering its assault with a powerful strike that echoes through the dungeon. Yoojin Han clenches his hand tightly as a shard of crystalline energy shatters against his palm, the impact sending a shockwave of purple light rippling through the dungeon. Yoojin Han withstands the crushing impact of Rochidas' claw, the crystalline energy shattering against his palm as the beast's massive, shadowy form looms over him. Yoojin Han grips his weapon tightly, channeling his S-Rank power to unleash a devastating purple energy blade that shatters the crystalline defenses of the beast before him. Yoojin Han channels his S-Rank power, unleashing a devastating purple energy blade that shatters the crystalline defenses of the Rochidas before him. Yoojin unleashes a devastating purple energy blade that shatters the crystalline defenses of the Rochidas before him. Yoojin's purple energy blade shatters the crystalline defenses of the Rochidas, sending shards of light scattering across the dungeon as the beast recoils from the sudden, devastating impact. The purple energy blade shatters the crystalline defenses of the Rochidas, sending shards of light scattering across the dungeon as the beast recoils from the sudden, devastating impact. Yoojin Han, his expression hardened by the weight of his secret power, thrusts his hand forward to intercept the chaotic purple energy blade that had just shattered the beast's defenses. Yoojin Han intercepts the chaotic purple energy blade with his hand, his grip tightening as he declares, "So this is how an S-Ranker fights." Yoojin Han intercepts the chaotic purple energy blade with his hand, his grip tightening as he declares, "So this is how an S-Ranker fights." Rochidas roars, its massive jaws snapping open with a wet, gurgling sound as it prepares to unleash a torrent of venomous saliva. Rochidas unleashes a torrent of green venomous saliva, its massive jaws snapping open with a wet, gurgling roar as it lunges toward Yoojin Han. Yoohyun Han, his eyes burning with a mix of desperation and rage, clenches his fist around a glowing red blade as he screams Yoojin's name, while Yoojin, battered and bleeding, looks on in shock from the distance. Yoohyun, his eyes burning with a mix of desperation and rage, clenches his fist around a glowing red blade as he screams Yoojin's name, while Yoojin, battered and bleeding, looks on in shock from the distance. Rochidas, the Dragon King of Venom and Curse, unleashes a torrent of fiery breath that seems to constrain Yoojin's movements, forcing him to dodge the relentless assault while Yoohyun watches in shock. Yoojin sits amidst the fiery devastation, realizing that Rochidas is unleashing such a torrent of power solely to shield him from the true threat. Rochidas unleashes a torrent of power, shielding Yoojin from the true threat while the beast's massive form dominates the scene. Yoohyun screams Yoojin's name in shock, furious that the man he once abandoned has returned to the dungeon despite his broken legs. Yoohyun, his face plastered with bandages, glares with wide, shocked eyes at the man he once abandoned, while the other figure screams in a desperate plea for him to learn his place and live quietly. Yoohyun, his face still bandaged from the dungeon's wrath, screams in frustration at the man he once abandoned, ordering him to shut up and hide in a corner. Yoojin, realizing the depth of his brother's pain and the weight of his own past failures, silently accepts his role as the one who must protect and support Yoohyun, no longer feeling like a burden but a guardian. Yoojin stands in the shadow of his brother's overwhelming power, his heart aching as he questions whether his brother's rescue is born of genuine care or merely the weight of familial obligation. Rachida's unleashes a terrifying roar, its massive shadowy form looming over the battlefield as the beast's presence threatens to overwhelm the party. The walking encyclopedia, a tall hunter leaning on a crutch, asks with a tone of weariness, "Don't you ever get sick of it?" As he takes a heavy, uneven step forward, the sound of his limp echoing through the dungeon. Yoojin Han, his hand glowing with a blue energy, prepares to strike with a swift motion, his internal monologue revealing his frustration with his older brother's incompetence. Yoojin's hand crackles with blue energy as he warns Yoohyun that he didn't need to intervene, insisting there is a simpler way to resolve the situation. Yoojin dashes forward with a burst of blue energy, shouting a warning as the colossal shadowy dragon, Rachida's, unleashes a devastating attack that tears through the ground. Yoojin Han, now an S-Rank Custodian, braces himself against the colossal shadowy dragon, Rachida's, as he unleashes a devastating attack that tears through the ground. Rachida's, the colossal shadowy dragon, looms over Yoojin with a single glowing green eye visible as the hunter stumbles back in terror, shouting, "What are you?" Rachida's, the colossal shadowy dragon, looms over Yoojin with a single glowing green eye visible as the hunter stumbles back in terror, shouting, "What are you?" Rachida's looms over Yoojin, his massive shadowy form casting a dark presence as the hunter, overwhelmed by the beast's sheer size and power, pleads for his life, admitting that even if saved, he fears becoming a burden and begging to be left to die. Rachida's, the dragon king of venom and curse, sneers at Yoojin, coldly stating that his demise will save the hunters the trouble of organizing a funeral for him. Rachida's sneered at Yoojin, coldly stating that his demise would save the hunters the trouble of organizing a funeral for him. Rachida's unleashes a deafening roar, its massive maw gaping wide as it prepares to crush Yoojin, who stands defiantly before the beast. Rachida's unleashes a torrent of corrosive purple energy, its serpentine form twisting violently as it prepares to crush Yoojin, who stands defiantly before the beast. Rachida's unleashes a torrent of corrosive purple energy, its serpentine form twisting violently as it prepares to crush Yoojin, who stands defiantly before the beast. Yoojin stares in stunned disbelief as the reality of the situation sinks in, his mind struggling to process the sudden turn of events. Yoojin grips his brother Yoohyun's arm with desperate strength, his eyes wide with shock as he realizes the truth behind the events that led to this moment. Yoojin's legs are lifted off the ground as Rachida's, the dragon king of venom and curse, grabs him with a crushing grip, dragging him upward into the fiery chaos of the dungeon. Rachida's, the dragon king of venom and curse, looms over Yoojin as he is dragged upward into the fiery chaos, his crushing grip tightening with every passing second. The crushing grip of the dragon loosens as Yoojin Han, now transformed by the absorbed power of Rachida's, stands defiant against the chaos. He realizes that his brother, Yoohyun, has arrived to save him, marking a pivotal shift in their dynamic. The smoke from the incense coils rises around the altar, framing the blurred, ghostly visage of Yoohyun's brother, Yoohyun, who has manifested to save him from the dragon's grasp. Yoojin reflects on the heavy burden of their shared past, noting that their relationship has been strained ever since their parents passed away. A concerned voice asks if he is okay, sensing the weight of his memories. Yoohyun reassures Yoohyun with a gentle smile, his voice steady despite the weight of their shared past. "I'm fine, Yoohyun," he says, his eyes reflecting a quiet resolve to protect his brother. Yoojin gently holds Yoohyun's hand, his voice soft and reassuring as he says, "You must be hungry. Let's get you something to eat." The moment is intimate and tender, highlighting the deep bond between the two brothers amidst the chaos of their world. Yoojin's voice cuts through the silence as he asks, "Are you okay, Yoojin?" The words hang in the air, heavy with concern, as the only sound is the rhythmic drip of water echoing the tension in the room. Yoojin stares in shock at the bloodied figure before him, his voice trembling as he calls out, "Yoohyun." The sight of his brother's injury shatters his composure, leaving him to whisper in disbelief, "Why would you?" Rachida's unleashes a deafening roar, its serpentine body erupting in flames as it prepares to strike with terrifying force. Yoojin warns his brother Yoohyun that the formidable Yoojin will succumb to slumber in just an hour, urging him to act quickly before the beast falls back into a deep sleep. Yoojin, battered and bleeding, breathes heavily as he realizes the truth behind Yoohyun's arrival, admitting that Yoohyun never even visited him at the hospital when his legs shattered. Yoohyun stands before Yoojin, his expression hardening as he delivers a scathing rebuke, reminding Yoojin of his past orders to stay in his place. He then questions Yoojin's presence there, implying that his arrival is a direct violation of the boundaries Yoohyun had set. Yoohyun extends a glowing blue gate stone toward Yoojin, his expression grim as he urges him to take it and use it to escape the current situation. Yoohyun presses a glowing blue gate stone into Yoojin's palm, urging him to take it and use it to escape, while insisting they must first address Yoojin's wounds. Yoohyun grips Yoojin's arm with desperate strength, refusing to let him go as the wounded hunter stumbles forward, his body trembling under the weight of exhaustion and pain. Yoojin grips the dragon's claw with desperate strength, his voice trembling as he admits that fighting back is futile against the overwhelming power of the beast. Yoojin clutches Yoohyun tightly, his grip tightening as the dragon's venomous curse begins to seep into his brother's body, forcing him to act as a shield against the overwhelming threat. Yoojin's voice is barely a whisper, his bloodied face twisted in a grimace as he admits that he doesn't think he'll be needing that anymore. Yoojin's hand presses against the wooden surface with a sharp, staccato rhythm, the sound of his knuckles striking the wood echoing as he declares that he will be needing that gate stone. Yoojin collapses into Yoohyun's embrace, the sound of their bodies hitting the ground echoing as the dragon's true intent to shield him from his brother's arrival is finally revealed. Yoojin slumps against the ground, his body heavy with exhaustion as the weight of his brother's arrival settles over him. The dragon's protective intent hangs in the air, shielding him from the very person he has spent his life trying to protect. A voice calls out from the shadows, "Hey, Yoohyun." The sound cuts through the tension as Yoojin's eyes widen in shock, his gaze locking onto the figure of his brother who has just arrived. The word "flash" erupts across the screen, signaling a sudden shift in time as Yoojin's gaze locks onto his brother, Yoohyun, who has just materialized from the shadows to intervene in the chaos. The swirling blue energy of Yoojin's custodian ability envelops him and Yoohyun, shielding them from the chaos as Yoojin embraces his brother to transfer the absorbed power of the defeated Rochitas. A bonus skill named Final Thanks activates, granting Yoojin the ability to transfer the absorbed power of the defeated Rochitas to himself with double effectiveness for the next hour. The system reveals the skills and stats of the deceased Yoojin Han, illuminating the truth behind his prodigious power and the weight of his role as guildmaster. Yoojin Han, his face etched with the strain of his custodian power, screams as the overwhelming energy of the Dragon King surges through him, transforming his very essence into a vessel of S-rank might. Yoojin screams as the Dragon King's power surges through him, and the text declares that the transferred stats will be applied at double effectiveness. Yoojin screams as the Dragon King's power surges through him, and the text declares that the transferred stats will be applied at double effectiveness. The dragon's roar intensifies, its massive jaws snapping open to unleash a torrent of venomous energy that Yoojin effortlessly absorbs, his body glowing with an otherworldly blue light as he transforms into an unstoppable force. Yoojin unleashes his transformed power, effortlessly absorbing the torrent of venomous energy as the Dragon King's jaws snap shut in shock. The sheer force of his new S-rank status shatters the dragon's attacks, leaving the party in awe of his sudden, overwhelming strength. Rochitas, the Dragon King of Venom and Curse, unleashes a torrent of blue energy as Yoojin Han intercepts the attack with his newly awakened S-rank power, effortlessly absorbing the beast's venomous essence while the dragon's jaws snap shut in shock. Rochitas unleashes a torrent of blue energy as Yoojin Han intercepts the attack with his newly awakened S-rank power, effortlessly absorbing the beast's venomous essence while the dragon's jaws snap shut in shock. Yoojin embraces Yoohyun tightly as the dragon's true intent is revealed, whispering a frustrated, "You idiot," to his brother who has arrived to save him. Yoojin clutches his brother Yoohyun tightly, whispering his frustration as he feels the immense power of the Dragon King flowing through them. Yoojin's custodian ability surges as he absorbs the Dragon King's venomous power, his body contorting under the immense pressure of the transferred stats. The dragon's true intent is revealed as it shields Yoojin from the impending threat of Yoohyun's arrival. Yoojin grips the glowing, venomous spear as Rochitas shields him from the impending arrival of his brother, Yoohyun, who has descended to intervene. The weapon vibrates with the dragon's cursed power, a testament to the desperate measures Yoojin is taking to survive the confrontation. Rochitas, the Dragon King of Venom and Curse, unleashes a deafening roar as the ground shatters beneath his colossal form, his glowing green eyes fixed on the approaching threat of his brother, Yoohyun. Rachitas unleashes a deafening roar as the ground shatters beneath his colossal form, his glowing green eyes fixed on the approaching threat of his brother, Yoohyun. The walking encyclopedia thrusts his crutch forward with a sudden, explosive force, shattering the ground as he intercepts the dragon's attack to protect Yoojin. Rachitas unleashes a torrent of corrosive venom and dark energy, his serpentine neck coiling violently as he prepares to strike the party with overwhelming force. Yoojin Han, the S-Ranker brother, scoffs at the chaos, declaring his speed superior and boasting that he is twice as strong as his brother. Yoojin Han screams in anguish as he is struck by a massive, glowing white blade, his body battered by the sheer force of the attack. Yoojin screams in anguish as he is struck by a massive, glowing white blade, his body battered by the sheer force of the attack. The massive white blade shatters as Yoojin screams in anguish, only for Rachitas to reveal its true intent, shielding Yoojin from the real threat, Yoojin Han, who has arrived to save his brother. Rachitas reveals its true intent to shield Yoojin from the real threat, Yoojin Han, who has arrived to save his brother. Rachitas, the Dragon King of Venom and Curse, unleashes a devastating blow upon the ground, its serpentine form thrashing violently as it prepares to strike. As Rachitas' venomous curse seeps into the air, Yoojin's hidden S-rank abilities surge within him, allowing him to absorb the dragon's overwhelming power and transform into a formidable S-rank fighter. Yoojin stares at a document revealing his brother Yoohyun Han's S-rank status, a stark contrast to his own F-rank designation. He resolves that he must never be associated with his brother, fearing the stigma of being an F-ranker will drag him down. Yoojin walks away, determined to keep his distance from his brother to protect him from the stigma of being an F-ranker. He fears that if others perceive his brother as a liability due to his own status, they will target him, so he must remain separate to ensure Yoohyun's safety. Yoojin grips a staff, his expression grim as he declares that this is the only way he can save his brother. Yoojin dashes forward with grim determination, his staff raised as he prepares to intercept the terrifying roar of Rachitas, the Dragon King of Venom and Curse, who unleashes a monstrous attack to test his resolve. Yoojin raises his staff to intercept the terrifying roar of Rachitas, the Dragon King of Venom and Curse, who unleashes a monstrous attack to test his resolve. Yoojin thrusts his staff forward to intercept the terrifying roar of Rachitas, the Dragon King of Venom and Curse, who unleashes a monstrous attack to test his resolve. Xiaoku Lim orders the subordinate to keep a close watch on Yoojin, warning that he will not receive the same legal protections afforded to an S-rank hunter. Yoojin lies in a hospital bed with his leg heavily bandaged, his arms crossed in frustration as he shouts, "Crap! How could you let him get this hurt?" The hunter commands his team to extract all the scumbags responsible for the attack on Yoojin's legs, unleashing a massive, blood-soaked explosion as the chaos erupts. Rachitas, the Dragon King of Venom and Curse, unleashes a torrent of corrosive energy that shatters the dungeon walls, forcing Yoojin to activate his custodian ability to absorb the beast's overwhelming power and shield his party from the catastrophic backlash. Rachitas unleashes a torrent of corrosive energy that shatters the dungeon walls, forcing Yoojin to activate his custodian ability to absorb the beast's overwhelming power and shield his party from the catastrophic backlash. The unnamed hunter instructs the party to reject Yoojin's healer support and kick him out, offering him money only under the pretense of a transaction. The unnamed hunter reflects on the situation, noting that maintaining the pretense that Yoojin is still his brother is preferable to sending him into a dungeon. Yoojin collapses to his knees in the dimly lit room, his hands clasped tightly as he pours out a desperate apology to his brother, Yoohyun, for the pain he has caused. Yoojin collapses to his knees in the dimly lit room, his hands clasped tightly as he pours out a desperate apology to his brother, Yoohyun, for the pain he has caused. But please stay away from the dungeons. The ground shatters with a deafening crash as Rachitas, the Dragon King of Venom and Curse, unleashes a devastating attack upon the party. The ground shatters with a deafening crash as Rachitas, the Dragon King of Venom and Curse, unleashes a devastating attack upon the party. Yoojin Han stands firm amidst the chaos, his custodian ability ready to absorb the dragon's power and protect his allies from the impending doom. Rachitas, the Dragon King of Venom and Curse, unleashes a devastating attack upon the party, his massive form looming over them as he prepares to strike. Yoojin Han stands firm amidst the chaos, his custodian ability ready to absorb the dragon's power and protect his allies from the impending doom. Yoohyun Han sneers in the rain, questioning Yoojin's audacity before the scene shifts to Yoojin's perspective as he reflects on being kept in the dark by his brother. Yoojin grips a wooden staff tightly as rain pours down, his expression a mix of exhaustion and dawning realization as he admits his blindness to the truth. The lingering effects of his final thanks skill fade, and Yoojin realizes that once the temporary buff is removed, he will be forced to face the consequences of his actions without his stolen power. The dragon's venom begins to shut down Yoojin's body, and he resigns himself to the inevitable, accepting his fate as death approaches. A blip of light heralds the unlocking of an impossible achievement as Yoojin single-handedly hunts down the formidable Rachitas, the Dragon King of Venom and Curse. A blinding system notification flashes above Yoojin, declaring that he has earned the legendary title Dragon Slayer. As he stands amidst the rain, his expression a mix of shock and disbelief at the impossible achievement. The system notification continues to enumerate Yoojin's monumental rewards, promising him 10 gate stones, 5 Tier 1 enchantment drafts, the legendary Red Dragon Greatsword, and a wish stone capable of granting any desire. The system notification concludes by promising Yoojin a wish stone capable of granting any desire once, as he gazes upward at the glowing artifact suspended above the dragon. A radiant wish stone materializes before Rachitas, its crystalline form pulsing with an intense, blinding light that illuminates the dark dungeon. The Dragon King, momentarily stunned by the sudden appearance of the artifact, is prompted by the system to grant Yoojin a single wish of his choosing. Yoojin, overwhelmed by the system's refusal to grant his wish, desperately pleads for the return of his brother, Yoohyun, as the only acceptable price for his freedom. Yoojin, kneeling in the rain and clutching a glowing flower, screams in despair that his plea is useless, realizing that the only thing he truly desires is the return of his brother. Yoojin stands amidst a crowd of onlookers under umbrellas, his heart heavy as he reflects on the desire to possess what he covets most. He gazes upward at the massive screens displaying his brother's face, realizing that his true wish is nothing more than the return of Yoohyun. Yoojin mumbles his resolve, accepting that his true wish is nothing more than the return of his brother, Yoohyun. Yoojin stands resolute, his internal resolve crystallizing into a desperate prayer to the heavens. Turn back time to before my brother's death. Yoojin prays desperately to the heavens, wishing to be returned to a time before he entered the dungeons and even before his awakening. Yoojin Han, his hands trembling with the weight of his desperate prayer, suddenly feels a surge of power as the heavens seem to answer his plea. The world around him blurs, and a brilliant light erupts from his palms, signaling the beginning of his transformation. Yoojin Han, his hands trembling with the weight of his desperate prayer, suddenly feels a surge of power as the heavens seem to answer his plea. The world around him blurs, and a brilliant light erupts from his palms, signaling the beginning of his transformation. A celestial interface materializes before Yoojin, asking if he wishes to turn back time, to which he tearfully and desperately affirms his desire to reset the timeline. Yoojin Han, now an S-Rank Custodian, channels his immense power to shield his party from the dragon's venomous attacks, his eyes reflecting the weight of his new reality. Yoojin's custodian power surges, enveloping the party in a blinding aura of light as he prepares to intercept the dragon's venomous assault. Yoojin screams in shock as the blinding light of his custodian power envelops him, instantly absorbing the dragon's venomous assault and transforming into an S-rank fighter to intercept the attack. Yoojin awakens in a dimly lit room, his mind reeling from the sudden shift in reality as he realizes he is no longer the powerful S-ranker, but an F-ranker overshadowed by his prodigious younger brother. Confused and disoriented, he sits on the couch, questioning his surroundings as the weight of his new, tragic circumstances settles upon him. Yoojin stands frozen in the luxurious office of Yoohyun, his mind reeling as he realizes he has truly traveled back in time to a reality where his brother Yoohyun has already established the guild. Panic sets in as he attempts to access his status window, only to find it unresponsive, confirming that his S-rank power has vanished, and he is now an F-ranker overshadowed by his prodigious brother. Yoojin stares at his phone, realizing the date is indeed 5 years in the past, and remembers that this was the day he went to the awakening broker to change his fate. Yoojin reflects on his past desire to become like Yoohyun, lamenting how pathetic he felt in comparison. Yoojin realizes the significance of the situation, his thoughts racing as he processes the implications of the events unfolding around him. Yoohyun Han steps into the room, his presence commanding attention as he prepares to confront the threat that has been looming over his brother. The door clicks shut, sealing the room as Yoohyun Han steps inside, his imposing presence commanding immediate attention. Yoojin's voice cuts through the tension, his frustration palpable as he demands to know how many times he must repeat his warning to Yoojin. Yoojin's voice cuts through the tension, his frustration palpable as he demands to know how many times he must repeat his warning to Yoohyun. Yoojin's frustration boils over as he shouts at Yoohyun, demanding to know how many times he must repeat his warning before the younger brother stops making him return to this dangerous place. Yoojin's voice cracks with suppressed rage as he glares at Yoohyun, demanding to know how many times he must repeat his warning before the younger brother stops making him return to this dangerous place. The sound of a sudden dash echoes as Yoojin Han reappears, his presence instantly shifting the atmosphere. "He's back," someone remarks, realizing that everything has returned to the dangerous way it was. Yoojin Han, the S-Ranker Guildmaster, suddenly appears and grabs Yoojin Han, who is currently in the midst of a dangerous encounter with the dragon. Yoojin Han, shocked by the sudden appearance of his brother Yoohyun, cries out his name in disbelief as he is pulled from the dangerous encounter with the dragon. Yoojin embraces his brother Yoohyun, relieved to find him still alive despite the chaos, while Yoohyun apologizes for the danger he brought upon them. Yoojin holds his brother Yoohyun tightly, his own hands trembling as he accepts the weight of Yoohyun's apology. "It was all my fault," Yoohyun whispers, his voice heavy with regret for the danger he brought upon them. Yoojin looks up with wide, tear-filled eyes, his voice breaking as he desperately apologizes for everything. "I'm so sorry about everything." Yoojin stammers defensively, insisting that his recent actions were merely something that occurred to him rather than a malicious act. Yoojin stammers defensively, insisting that his recent actions were merely something that occurred to him rather than a malicious act. Yoojin embraces him, gently correcting his age and expressing empathy for the hardships Yoojin has endured alone while leading the guild. Yoojin kneels in the shadows, his hands clasped tightly as he apologizes for being a terrible brother for not realizing the truth. He promises to behave from now on, seeking forgiveness for everything he has done. Yoojin gently places a reassuring hand on Yoohyun's shoulder, promising that Yoohyun will no longer have to worry about him from now on. Yoojin calls out to his brother, Yoohyun, and gently squeezes his shoulder, expressing gratitude for the truth he was finally told. Yoojin reflects on the emotional weight of his confession, feeling a strange mix of awkwardness and relief that he finally voiced his gratitude. With the truth laid bare, he resolves to restore their fractured bond and protect his brother from the shadows that have plagued their past. Yoojin reflects on their past bond, realizing that despite the world's perception of him as a parasite, he and Yoohyun were once inseparable brothers who shared a deep, unbreakable connection. Yoojin gazes up at his younger brother Yoohyun with a soft, affectionate smile, gently touching his collar as he whispers, "My baby brother." Yoojin gazes up at his younger brother Yoohyun with a soft, affectionate smile, gently touching his collar as he whispers, "My baby brother." Yoohyun embraces him tightly, declaring his love and urging Yoojin to forget about awakening or becoming a hunter, as he now knows his place is to stay put and protect his brother. System notification blips, announcing congratulations on Yoojin Han's awakening to the S-Rank title of Custodian. Yoojin Han blinks in confusion, his expression shifting as he processes the sudden system notification. The screen flashes with the word blip, confirming his awakening to the S-Rank title of Custodian. The system confirms Yoojin Han's awakening as the S-Rank Custodian, activating his bonus skill, Super Nanny, which causes him to grow at twice the speed. The system confirms Yoojin Han's awakening as the S-Rank Custodian, activating his bonus skill, Super Nanny, which causes him to grow at twice the speed. Say what? The aroma of sizzling bacon and bubbling stew fills the air as Yoojin prepares a hearty meal, his S-Rank Custodian skills ensuring the perfect cook. Yoojin smiles warmly as he stirs the pot, telling his brother to sit tight since dinner is almost ready. Yoohyun, peeking from the bottom corner, nervously agrees with a stuttered "okay." Yoojin stands at the stove, the sizzle of cooking filling the air as he remarks that the situation feels awkward. Yoohyun peeks from the corner, his nervous demeanor contrasting with Yoojin's calm, protective presence. Before Yoojin traveled back in time, this was the day they had a massive argument that ended with him running away. Yoojin, now an S-Rank Custodian, stands before his brother Yoohyun, who has returned to the present timeline after a dungeon break. Yoohyun, unaware of Yoojin's true power, scolds him for returning to dangerous dungeons, while Yoojin internally reflects on his past failures and his desire to protect his brother from the future tragedy. Yoohyun reflects on the irony of their situation, admitting that while he is relieved to finally put their past conflicts behind him, he never anticipated they would be sharing a meal together. Yoojin watches as Yoohyun, clad in a black shirt and apron, begins to cook with a sizzling sound, while Yoohyun himself sits at the table with a gentle smile. Yoojin interacts with his newly acquired status window, marveling at the unexpected awakening of his S-Rank Custodian abilities. Yoojin examines the Yoohyun Guild emblem, noting its distinct design compared to the previous timeline, and questions the guild's new title. Yoojin examines the glowing title, Dragon Slayer L, bestowed upon him, questioning if the honor of single-handedly slaying a Tier 1 dragon came from his past victory over Rachitas. Yoojin realizes that despite turning back time, the memory of the dragon incident persists, causing him to feel that something is fundamentally wrong with this new reality. Yoojin taps the glowing interface, marveling that the newly acquired title carries an L rank, surpassing even the prestigious S rank. Yoojin stares in awe as the system interface materializes around him, the title blip asterisk glowing in neon blue above his head, while a cascade of new skills, including the dragon emblem and ghostly icons, floods his consciousness. Yoojin stares in awe as the system interface materializes around him, the title blip asterisk glowing in neon blue above his head, while a cascade of new skills, including the dragon emblem and ghostly icons, floods his consciousness. The system interface materializes around Yoojin, revealing his newly acquired S-rank resistances against poison, curse, and fear, alongside the dormant power of the Dragon King Rachitas. Yoojin realizes that absorbing the power of Rachitas will make him twice as strong against the Dragon King and other similar beasts, but he is left wondering if this newfound strength could truly be the answer he sought. Yoojin clenches his fists tightly, his resolve hardening as he reflects on the legendary tales of heroes who gain ultimate power by returning to the past. He wonders if he truly stands among those stories, or if his journey is merely another chapter in a cycle of fate he is desperate to break. Yoojin clenches his fists as the red, glowing emblems of his new S-rank status manifest before him, signaling his awakening as the custodian. He stands ready to protect his brother and rewrite the tragic fate that once defined their lives. Rachitas, the Dragon King of Venom and Curse, unleashes a deafening roar that shakes the very foundations of the dungeon as he prepares to unleash his devastating power. Rachitas unleashes a deafening roar that shakes the very foundations of the dungeon as he prepares to unleash his devastating power. Yoojin and his allies struggle against the overwhelming force, with one hunter screaming that the poison is melting them down, while another cries out that they are done for. Yoojin, now an S-rank custodian with full knowledge of the future, aims to live a quiet life while protecting his brother and preventing the dungeon break tragedy. He possesses the power of the Dragon King and the ability to transfer stats to anyone under his custody, including Yoohyun. Yoohyun, looking bewildered by the sudden transformation, asks if the sensation of poison feels like a refreshing shower to him. Yoojin, now glowing with a radiant aura, confirms that the dragon's venom is indeed a welcome tonic for his new S-rank body. Yoojin Han, now an S-rank custodian, is embraced by his brother Yoojin Han, who praises him as the legendary dragon slayer, while Rachitas, the Dragon King, watches with wide-eyed awe. Rachitas, the Dragon King of Venom and Curse, unleashes a powerful claw swipe that sends Yoojin Han flying backward with a sharp asterisk trickle asterisk sound, while the unnamed hunter with a laptop observes the sudden impact. Yoojin slams his head onto the table in despair, lamenting that he is still his crappy old self, and unsure how to utilize his newfound S-rank skills, while the unnamed hunter watches him with a confused expression. Yoojin stares at the holographic interface, his expression grim as he realizes the system has already flagged his new status, while the unnamed hunter watches him with a confused expression. Yoojin examines the system interface, noting that his E-rank buffs for dexterity and intelligence are identical to his previous status, while his custodian title has been upgraded. Yoojin taps the glowing red icon on his system interface, confirming that his status has been upgraded to an L rank as well. Yoojin observes the system interface as it confirms his new status, noting that the upgrade comes with 4 new skills. Yoojin observes the system interface, noting the new skill final thanks he has acquired, though he expresses a reluctance to use it again. Yoojin examines the system interface, noting the new skill Super Nanny that boosts the growth rate of targets under his custody upon hearing a keyword. He muses aloud about the silly skill names before considering how this ability might aid his brother Yoohyun. Yoojin observes the system interface, noting the new skill Super Nanny that boosts the growth rate of targets under his custody upon hearing a keyword. He muses aloud about the silly skill names before considering how this ability might aid his brother Yoohyun. Yoojin muses aloud about how much the new skill boosts the growth rate, only to be shocked when the system reveals the rate has doubled. The sudden revelation startles him, causing him to stumble backward with a loud clunk. Yoojin realizes that with his new skill, he can grow at double the rate compared to other hunters, and he begins to consider how combining this with his existing abilities could change the future. Yoojin activates the Who's a Good Boy Girl SS skill, requiring him to cheer for Yoohyun in front of 5 intelligent beings who understand the keyword. Yoojin realizes that cheering for Yoohyun in front of 50 people grants him a 50% boost, and in front of 100 people, Yoohyun becomes twice as strong. Yoojin contemplates the immense potential of his new skill, envisioning a future where Yoohyun becomes the most powerful hunter in the world. He then expands his ambition, considering the possibility of applying this same skill to the other hunters of Yoohyun to elevate them all. The crowd erupts in cheers as they spot Yoohyun, marveling at her incredible speed and strength, which they claim is twice that of everyone else. Yoohyun Guild has ascended to become the world's most powerful guild in a matter of years, a monumental achievement that sets the stage for Yoojin's new reality. Yoojin and Yoohyun hold up a magnificent red carpet adorned with golden coins, celebrating the Yoohyun Guild's monumental rise to the world's most powerful status. The scene is filled with laughter and the sound of falling gold, highlighting the success that has been achieved under Yoohyun's leadership. Yoojin stands triumphantly amidst a shower of gold coins, his arms wide open in a gesture of pure victory as he declares, "Then I'm set for life," while the other hunters bow in awe beneath his glorious, cape-adorned figure. Yoojin declares that he will no longer need to work another day, only for the system to immediately flash the glowing keyword, "I love you," in response. Yoohyun reacts with disbelief, questioning what kind of keyword that is. Yoohyun stares in shock as the system's response manifests physically, causing the floor to crack and shudder beneath him with a loud asterisk bam sound. He exclaims, "Is this?" as he struggles to comprehend the sudden, overwhelming reality of his brother's new power. Yoojin realizes that the system's keywords must have changed after his second awakening, confirming his new reality. Yoojin embraces Yoohyun, declaring his love for his baby brother, while Yoohyun internally reflects on the absurdity of such a confession. Yoojin confesses his love to his father, who is visibly moved by the gesture, while Yoojin simultaneously declares his affection for Yoohyun and Yoohyun, showcasing his deep-seated desire to protect and cherish those he cares about. Yoojin cries with a smile, recalling how he would have ended up in jail before he could do anything. Yoojin Han, now an S-Rank Custodian, reflects on his new reality, acknowledging that despite the incredible power he possesses, his current skill feels practically useless in this timeline. Yoojin contemplates the possibility of using his keywords to help the unawakened individual unleash their optimal potential, while an unnamed hunter with a laptop observes the unfolding situation. Yoohyun, now an S-Rank hunter, serves as the guildmaster of Yoohyun, while Yoojin, formerly an F-Ranker, secretly retains his S-Rank abilities from the reset timeline. Yoojin accepts the bowl of rice with a grateful expression, exclaiming, "Why yeah, that's plenty thanks." Yoojin Han, now an S-Rank Custodian, savors a meal with a look of pure satisfaction, remarking that it is delicious. Yoojin Han, now an S-Rank Custodian, savors a meal with a look of pure satisfaction, remarking that it is delicious. Yoohyun Han, his brother, offers him more food from the pan, noting that there is plenty left and asking if he wants more. Yoojin remarks that he didn't know his brother could cook, to which Yoohyun replies that practice makes perfect. Yoohyun then teases him, noting that despite his wealth, Yoojin can't just eat out. Yoojin explains that it is safer to prepare his own meals, noting that while antidotes and curse-lifting items are readily available nowadays, they were not accessible during his original timeline. Yoojin reflects on the past, acknowledging the items he possessed when the original tragedy began. Yoojin listens in disbelief as the hunter reveals that people have attempted to poison and curse his food, a grim reality of his past life as an F-Rank hunter. Yoojin reflects on the grim reality of his past life, noting that even the other guilds had partnered with mega-corporations to build their size, likely driven by jealousy over high schoolers showing off. Yoojin stands defiantly in the center, gripping a sword as he faces a group of imposing hunters who surround him with a mix of suspicion and authority. The tension in the air is palpable as these figures, including the tall hunter with a crutch and the woman in the blazer, loom over him, seemingly prepared to question or confront him about his sudden reappearance. Yoojin reflects on his past stubbornness, admitting that building his own guild was a mistake, and that he should have quietly joined a decent one like Yoohyun. He realizes that his refusal to accept help and his desire for independence only led to unnecessary trouble and suffering for everyone around him. Yoohyun grips Yoojin's face tightly, his expression a mix of shock and anger as he demands to know why Yoojin didn't tell him about his past. Yoojin's eyes are filled with a mix of vulnerability and desperation as he pleads with his brother, asking him not to look at him with such intensity. Yoojin declares that the path he has chosen is his own, yet he admits there is one regret regarding his past actions. Yoojin, now an S-Rank Custodian, reflects on his past as an F-Rank hunter overshadowed by his prodigious younger brother, Yoohyun. He admits that their relationship deteriorated over time, with Yoohyun eventually abandoning him at the hospital after Yoojin's legs were broken, believing him to be a burden. Yoohyun stands with his back turned, revealing the truth behind his protective words as he explains how he has always monitored Yoojin to keep dangerous threats at bay. Yoojin confesses that he pretended to distance himself from Yoohyun to prevent others from exploiting his brother's reputation, while Yoohyun, visibly moved, questions why he never shared the truth. Yoojin confesses that he never wanted to burden Yoohyun, fearing his brother wouldn't understand his past struggles. He admits that his attempt to distance himself was a mistake, as Yoohyun has always been there for him. Yoojin gazes at Yoohyun with a mix of disbelief and gratitude, acknowledging that his brother still cares deeply for him despite his past attempts to distance himself. Yoohyun, looking down with a gentle smile, admits that his apologies and confession of love are a testament to his enduring feelings. Yoojin expresses his deep gratitude to Yoohyun, acknowledging the kindness shown after his own difficult behavior. Yoohyun listens with a gentle demeanor, reinforcing the bond between the brothers as they share a meal. Yoohyun gently calls out to Yoojin, his expression softening as he reassures him that he shouldn't feel bad for the trouble Yoojin caused. Yoojin accepts the kindness with a grateful smile, ready to eat the meal his brother has prepared for him. Yoojin enthusiastically grabs skewers of meat with his chopsticks, the sound of them swishing through the air as he eagerly eats the meal Yoohyun prepared. He reflects with a warm smile that returning to this moment was the best decision he ever made. Yoojin sighs, realizing he must return to work. But before he leaves, the door creaks open to reveal the unnamed hunter peering in with a curious expression. The unnamed hunter taps his phone to confirm the deletion of the troublesome individuals, remarking, "They're deleted," while Yoojin stares in disbelief, wondering if his brother has truly gotten rid of them all. The unnamed hunter waves goodbye, promising to clean up everything before he leaves, but Yoojin is confused by the sudden departure. Yoohyun firmly presses his hand against the door, declaring that Yoojin is not going anywhere and must stay with him from now on. He sternly warns that Yoojin cannot go outside, effectively ending any attempts at leaving. Yoojin, now an S-Rank Custodian, is confronted by Yoohyun, who scolds him for returning to dangerous dungeons. Yoojin, shocked by Yoojin's sudden appearance, exclaims in disbelief at the unexpected turn of events. Yoojin, shocked by Yoohyun's sudden appearance, exclaims in disbelief at the unexpected turn of events. Yoohyun, visibly concerned, warns Yoojin that venturing out is too dangerous, while Yoojin reacts with shock to the sudden shift in their dynamic. Yoojin insists he was fine this morning, but Yoohyun counters that things have changed, warning that their renewed closeness makes him less safe than before. Yoohyun reveals the harsh truth that his safety was only possible because Yoojin was shut out of his life, warning that their enemies will now come for him. Yoohyun scolds Yoojin for letting him wander into danger, revealing that their enemies will now target him since Yoojin is no longer shut out of his life. Yoohyun firmly declares that Yoojin is no longer leaving, commanding him to stay by his side from now on. Yoojin stands with his arms spread wide, a gentle smile on his face as he accepts Yoojin's command to stay by his side. The warm light surrounding him highlights his resolve to protect his brother and live a quiet life together. Yoojin stares in disbelief as the unnamed hunter frantically tries to flee, shouting that he can't be serious and is getting out of there. A loud clunk echoes as the unnamed hunter panics, exclaiming in fear before turning to ask if the figure before him is Mr. Yoojin Han. The mover confirms that he has brought all of Yoojin's belongings as requested, asking him to sign the delivery receipt from the company, W.E. Hall. Yoohyun reacts with shock and confusion, realizing the extent of the items he has accumulated. Yoojin stares in disbelief as movers unload a mountain of boxes and crates, realizing the sheer volume of his belongings. "What do you mean you brought all of this?" he exclaims, while a small creature nearby reacts with a startled WHAAT. Yoojin stands before the movers, declaring the apartment empty and this place Yoojin's new home, while Yoojin protests that he can't just be forced to move in. Yoojin gazes up at Yoohyun with a soft, hopeful smile, telling him that all he needs is for Yoohyun to be sorry and to love him. Yoohyun stands before Yoojin, his expression softening as he accepts the weight of his brother's forgiveness, acknowledging that their past wounds have finally begun to heal. Yoohyun, his expression softening as he accepts the weight of his brother's forgiveness, acknowledges that their past wounds have finally begun to heal. Yoojin, his eyes closed and a gentle smile on his face, says, "So that pretty much means you've agreed to this." The scene shifts to a chaotic room where a mover is lying face down amidst scattered boxes and clothes, while an unnamed hunter with a laptop observes the mess, wondering if this disorder is a side effect of the timeline reset. Yoohyun slams his hand against the floor, urgently shouting that it is not the time to lie around. He resolves to grab just the essentials and bail before Yoohyun returns. Yoojin kneels amidst the scattered boxes and supplies, frantically packing his bag to escape before Yoohyun returns. He thinks to himself that if he doesn't leave now, he could simply stay locked up forever. The heavy door creaks open as the unnamed hunter steps inside, his laptop glowing softly in the dim light. Yoojin hesitates, caught between his desire to flee and the overwhelming presence of Yoohyun, who looms over him with a stern, unreadable expression. Yoohyun, the stern S-Ranker Guildmaster, leans over the unnamed hunter with a sharp, unreadable expression, asking, "May I help you?" While the hunter hesitates, caught between his desire to flee and the overwhelming presence of the Guildmaster. Sunghyun Kim, an A-rank hunter and Yoohyun's trusted right-hand man, glares menacingly at the unnamed hunter, who nervously stammers a greeting. "No can do. The Guildmaster explicitly ordered me to keep you in here." Yoojin Han, now an S-Rank Custodian, is shocked to discover that his brother Yoohyun has assigned him the prestigious role of an A-rank prison guard. Yoohyun firmly blocks Yoojin from leaving, insisting that he cannot go anywhere, while Yoojin protests that he won't be gone for long. Yoohyun grips Yoojin's shoulder firmly, refusing to let him leave despite Yoojin's protests. Yoohyun grips Yoojin's shoulder firmly, refusing to let him leave despite Yoojin's protests. "Let me make this clear for you," Yoohyun says, his voice stern and commanding. "Get back inside." Yoohyun grips Yoojin's shoulder firmly, refusing to let him leave despite Yoojin's protests. "Let me make this clear for you," Yoohyun says, his voice stern and commanding. "Get back inside, otherwise I'll force you in if I have to." The beast looms over a trembling rabbit, its presence so oppressive that the small creature feels its entire body being crushed by the sheer weight of its intimidation. Yoojin, now trembling with fear, realizes that his new skill is keeping him steady despite the overwhelming pressure. He wonders if his newfound power is truly the reason he isn't shaking anymore. Yoojin's eyes widen in shock as a blue energy wave, labeled swoosh, crashes against his face, momentarily blinding him with its intensity. He stammers, "Right now," as the sheer force of the attack threatens to overwhelm his newfound defenses. Sunghyun Kim feels more like a fluffy teddy bear than a fierce grizzly. The beast lets out a terrifying screech, but Yoojin swiftly swats it away with a casual flick of his hand, while Yoohyun watches the display with a stern, unimpressed glare. Yoojin firmly grabs the hunter's collar, shouting that personal liberty is guaranteed under Article 12 of the Constitution of South Korea. Yoojin firmly grips the hunter's collar, shouting that detaining him like this is a crime and asking if the hunter is itching to go to jail. Yoohyun grips the collar of the hunter, warning him that his patience is wearing thin and threatening to throw him back inside if he continues to test it. Yoohyun grips the collar of the hunter, warning him that his patience is wearing thin and threatening to throw him back inside if he continues to test it. Yoojin, watching from the side, reflects that all this skill does is make him act like a fearlessly rabid bunny. Yoohyun forcefully drags the reluctant hunter toward the elevator, shouting that he has no choice but to use his many skills to protect them. A system notification flashes, announcing the activation of the skill as the twig is bent, so grows the tree asterisk, which Yoojin observes with a mix of surprise and hope. Yoojin Han, the younger brother and S-Rank Guildmaster, is caught off guard as Yoojin Han grabs his face, delivering a sharp slap that echoes with a loud yank. Yoohyun stumbles back, exclaiming "oof," and questioning, "What are you?" System interface reveals Sunghyun Kim's awakened potential, displaying his A-rank classification alongside the locked S-rank skills of Relentless Fortitude, Terra Shield, and Regeneration. The unnamed hunter exclaims that Yoohyun could end up with 2 S-rankers, marveling at the potential for her to reach S-rank status. System interface warns that the target is not under custody, instructing Yoojin to use specific keywords to activate the Super Nanny skill and unlock the target's full potential. Yoohyun resolves to take the troublesome individual under his wing, confident that his custody will make the other more cooperative. Yoohyun confidently declares that he will unlock a new S-Ranker and secure his freedom, while Yoojin looks on with a mix of surprise and concern as his brother's bold plan unfolds. Yoojin struggles to find the right words to express his feelings, realizing that the simple phrase, "I love you," is the ultimate keyword he needs to convey to his brother. Mr. Han growls in frustration, questioning the meaning of the situation, while another voice commands Mr. Kim to watch closely. Yoojin glares intensely at the situation, his expression hardening as he processes the unfolding events. Beside him, Mr. Han looks on with a confused and concerned expression, clearly unsure of how to react to the sudden tension. Yoojin winks playfully, forming a heart with his hands as he expresses his affection, while Yoohyun glares intensely with a growl, clearly unimpressed by his brother's sudden display of love. Yoohyun sternly orders the intruder to retreat, slamming the door shut with a heavy clunk as he declares the disturbance beyond words. Yoojin collapses to the floor in a desperate scramble, his internal system screaming that he must immediately alter the keywords governing his reality. Yoojin returns home late at night, announcing his arrival to Yoojin with a weary expression. Yoohyun asks Yoojin how his day was, but Yoojin collapses onto the floor in exhaustion, his body completely drained from the day's events. Yoojin, exhausted from his day's events, collapses onto the floor as Yoohyun offers him a spare room to stay in, insisting that he live with him instead of remaining alone. Yoojin, however, dismisses the offer with a resigned remark, stating that he is a prisoner regardless of the circumstances. Yoojin, having subdued the beast, leans in with a calm demeanor and promises the terrified creature that he will eventually let it go. The beast reacts with shock and desperation, gasping in disbelief as it questions when its freedom will finally arrive. Yoojin reassures the terrified beast that he will finish its punishment before letting it go, while Yoohyun explains that Yoohyun has many enemies and rivals to contend with. She adds that once they become overwhelmingly powerful, no one will dare to mess with them. Yoohyun encourages patience, assuring that once Yoohyun Guild becomes the most powerful in the country, it will be safe for everyone to go about their lives. She notes that achieving this dominance took years the last time, hinting at the long road ahead. Yoojin Han, now an S-Rank Custodian, smirks confidently as he prepares to intervene, while his younger brother Yoohyun Han reacts with a startled WAH at the sudden shift in the situation. Yoohyun Han, now an S-Rank Custodian, smirks confidently as he prepares to intervene, while his younger brother Yoohyun Han reacts with a startled WAH at the sudden shift in the situation. Yoohyun smirks as he drags Sunghan along like a pet, quipping that it feels just like taking a dog out for a walk. He explains that he can't take Sunghan out too often since clearing a dungeon takes several days. Yoojin hesitates, realizing he cannot simply abandon the situation to a B-ranker, prompting him to consider if his own abilities might be useful in this predicament. Yoojin reflects on his past actions before the reset, admitting that he only researched hunters online. He now contemplates how his new S-Rank Custodian abilities might change the outcome of the situation he hesitated over. The hunter reveals his grand plan to identify and recruit the future S-Rank hunters before they awaken, intending to bind them as his personal bodyguards through a contract. In a vivid daydream, Yoojin imagines himself as a powerful leader commanding a loyal faction, confidently declaring that even Yoohyun would be unable to control him. Yoojin, now an S-Rank Custodian, confidently declares that the current situation is easily manageable with his newly acquired skill set and title. Yoojin, his expression shifting from contemplation to a sudden, confident grin, declares that the situation is easily manageable with his newly acquired skill set and title. Yoojin clenches his fist with a determined grin, declaring his resolve to become a future A-ranker or even an S-ranker. The scene shifts to a bustling city street at night, where a hunter with a laptop observes the surroundings while a mover delivers items nearby. Yoojin stands in the narrow alleyway, his expression contemplative as he gazes toward the distant glow of the city, silently reflecting on his new purpose to protect his brother and prevent the tragedy that once defined his life. Yoojin stands resolute in the alleyway, declaring his intention to sweet-talk the hunter into becoming his very own S-ranker. The hunter confirms his resolve, stating that he will personally seek out an A-ranker to assist in the mission. The hunter kneels before the A-ranker bodyguard, pleading to be allowed outside in exchange for the chance to accompany the powerful guardian. The hunter with the laptop asks how Yoojin plans to find someone, clearly skeptical of his abilities. Yoojin stammers in response, caught off guard by the question. The hunter with the laptop questions Yoojin about his awakening, speculating if it occurred after he met the broker or perhaps even after meeting Yoojin, while Yoojin, caught off guard, defensively asks if the hunter is some kind of psychic. The hunter with the laptop questions Yoojin about his awakening, speculating if it occurred after he met the broker or perhaps even after meeting Yoohyun, while Yoojin, caught off guard, defensively asks if the hunter is some kind of psychic. Yoojin, visibly sweating and anxious, confesses his fear that if his brother discovers his legendary skill, he will be imprisoned forever, lamenting that he only possesses a lowly F-rank. The hunter with the laptop reveals that he can only predict a person's rank if it is high or low, and he can awaken his abilities only once per month. Yoojin sighs in relief, realizing that these limitations mean he is not yet a target for the dangerous hunters. The hunter warns Yoojin that his current ability will soon become obsolete, explaining that an awakening center is being established to reveal the true mechanisms behind awakening. The hunter reflects on the past, noting that before the establishment of the awakening center, the process of awakening was far more dangerous and uncertain. He explains that the new center now ensures that anyone can safely undergo their awakening. The group observes a simulation where hunters battle shadowy monsters, with one voice remarking that such measures would reduce scammers and that skills alone wouldn't matter without the right context. The unnamed hunter chuckles with satisfaction, remarking that his skill is now useless since he won't have to worry about anything anymore. The unnamed hunter, now an S-Rank Custodian, humbly pleads for a chance to find an A-Ranker ally, only to receive a reluctant but encouraging agreement from his brother that the task will be difficult but is permitted. The unnamed hunter, now an S-Rank Custodian, cheerfully agrees to help his brother by moving his belongings to his new place, while Yoohyun excitedly jumps in celebration at the prospect of his brother staying close. Yoojin, now an S-Rank Custodian, defiantly declares that he will never be locked up again, and vows to build an army of A-Rankers and S-Rankers to become untouchable. The next day, the scene shifts to the imposing Korea Hunters Association Awakened Persons Registration Center, where an unnamed hunter with a laptop stands ready to process the necessary paperwork for Yoojin's new status. A group of hunters murmurs in the registration center, with one excitedly pointing out Sunghin Kim, the renowned A-rank hunter and right-hand man of Yoohyun. The stern-faced man in the suit shouts Yoohyun, as a murmur spreads through the crowd, drawing attention to the guild's enthusiastic reception. Mr. Han, the stern-faced guild official, strides forward with an imposing presence, his dark suit cutting through the crowd as he commands attention with a sharp, authoritative demeanor. The crowd whispers in awe as Mr. Han strides through the guild hall, with one observer speculating that he must be a major figure bringing an A-ranker as a bodyguard. Others murmur excitedly, wondering if the guild is finally welcoming a new S-ranker today. The system confirms Yoojin Han's registration as an F-ranker, a stark contradiction to the whispers of an S-rank arrival, prompting the crowd to question why he would pretend to be one if he is truly so disappointing. Yoojin, now an S-Rank Custodian, dismisses the crowd's whispers and resolves to gear up, receiving a mysterious note from an unnamed hunter to acquire new equipment. Mr. Han presents a selection of equipment to Yoojin, explaining that these items will significantly boost his stats and boasting about their fabulous design, suggesting he could wear them on a regular basis. Mr. Han presents Yoojin with a selection of high-tier equipment, including the sapphire amulet and bracelet of Oris Hall, but Yoojin, overwhelmed by the sheer power and complexity of the items, bluntly asks if there is anything simpler. Mr. Han presents Yoojin with a pair of studs of Dark Fairy, noting they are currently in stock, while Yoojin examines the item and remarks that it is relatively normal. Yoojin examines the newly acquired gear, noting that the light fabric belt and gloves successfully boost his stats to a C-rank level. The unnamed hunter observes the equipment, remarking that with money, one can purchase anything. Yoojin, now an S-Rank Custodian, stands before the glowing interface as the unnamed hunter points to the data, remarking that with the rest of the money, one can purchase anything. Mr. Han, arms crossed with a stern gaze, demands to know where Yoojin has been, his tone reflecting the tension of their reunion. Yoojin, seated in the car, defiantly retorts that he went shopping in the same building, challenging his brother's disapproval with a mix of frustration and determination. Yoojin recalls that Yerim Park, known as the Ice Witch, is likely nearby, noting she was forced to live with relatives who run a barbecue restaurant after her parents passed away. The narrator reflects on Yerim Park, the Ice Witch, noting that she was an elite A-ranker before the reset and confident that Yoohyun would approve of her. The text reveals she was only 18 when she awakened her powers 3 years from the current timeline. The unnamed hunter reflects that the target is barely in high school, prompting him to resolve to find her immediately and secure a contract so he can finally achieve his freedom. The unnamed hunter, skeptical of the target's identity, remarks that he has never heard of Yerim Park. The hunter, frustrated by the lack of information, muses that there are far more barbecue restaurants in the area than he anticipated, questioning if he must search every single one to find Yerim Park. Yoojin, holding a sausage, complains about the long wait while the aroma of meat fills the air, prompting him to address Mr. Kim. Mr. Kim, holding a sausage, asks Yoojin if he isn't hungry and suggests grabbing a bite, but Yoojin politely declines, stating he is good. Mr. Kim persists, pleading with him to come along, while Yoojin questions their presence there, noting there are plenty of barbecue places near the guild. Yoojin considers grabbing some dinner before finishing his search, but the moment he thinks about barbecue, a sudden burst of energy erupts around him. He angrily shouts at someone off-screen, questioning why they keep pinning the blame on him for everything. Yoojin angrily shouts at Suchun Park, insisting that she is solely responsible for the trouble they are facing. Suchun Park, a hunter with purple hair, shouts "Found you!" with intense determination, her expression conveying a mix of anger and resolve as she confronts her target. Yoojin Han, now an S-Rank Custodian, clenches his fist with a determined expression as he prepares to confront the chaos threatening his brother Yoohyun. Yoojin attempts to apologize to Suchun Park, but she dashes away with surprising speed, prompting Mr. Kim to urgently grab Yoojin's arm and warn him to hold on. Mr. Kim urgently grabs Yoojin's arm to restrain him as Suchun Park dashes away with surprising speed, prompting Yoojin to internally marvel at her incredible velocity despite her lack of awakening. Yoojin dashes forward with blinding speed, his new equipment granting him a significant boost in agility as he effortlessly overtakes the fleeing Suchun Park. Yoojin dashes forward with blinding speed, his new equipment granting him a significant boost in agility as he effortlessly overtakes the fleeing Suchun Park. I can easily catch up to her. A sudden, blinding force erupts from the ground, sending a shockwave that startles the nearby hunters. One hunter cries out in alarm, while another, clutching his head, wonders in disbelief what just happened. A hunter with a laptop shouts in excitement, declaring that paying to win is the way to go as the chaotic scene unfolds around him. Yoojin follows the bustling crowd down the vibrant night market, his mind fixed on a specific direction as he whispers to himself, "I'm sure she came this way." Yoojin spots Yerim Park ahead, shouting her name and confirming her identity as the Ice Witch, while a companion excitedly exclaims that she has finally been found. Yoojin, shocked to see Suchun Park, questions if she was sent by his uncle, while Suchun angrily runs away, refusing to speak to him and declaring she isn't going back. Yoojin dashes forward, shouting a warning to an old man about an approaching car, his expression filled with urgent concern as he tries to prevent an accident. Yoojin, now an S-Rank Custodian, effortlessly shields his brother Yoohyun from the chaotic energy of the dungeon break, his custody skill absorbing the overwhelming power of the Tier 1 Dragon King to protect them both. The chaotic energy of the dungeon break sends an unnamed hunter flying through the air with a deafening asterisk sking sound, while the driver inside the vehicle screams in terror as the impact thuds against the car, causing the engine to hiss with steam. Suchun Park, a hunter with purple hair, looks up with a flustered expression, lamenting that she didn't land with a more heroic pose. A hunter with a laptop looks up in shock, asking, "What the heck? Are you a hunter, mister?" Suchun Park, a hunter with purple hair, is pinned to the ground by Yoojin, who is struggling to explain the situation while asking her to get off him. Yoojin gazes with delight at the sizzling Korean barbecue, marveling at the meat's marbling and expressing how long it's been since he enjoyed a proper meal. Yoohyun enthusiastically encourages Yerim to dig into the meal, relieved to have his corporate card to cover the generous order. Yerim humbly accepts the offer, while Jumpstart internally marvels at her impressive appetite. Yoojin internally marvels at Yerim's impressive appetite as she enthusiastically digs into the meal, while an unnamed hunter with a laptop observes the scene. Suchun dips a green chili pepper into sauce while questioning the unnamed hunter about his brother's connection to Hyun's guildmaster. The hunter dismisses the inquiry, claiming that someone of Yoohyun's stature would never seek his company. Yoojin crunches a green chili pepper, while the unnamed hunter explains that he senses a great force within Yoojin, prompting Yoojin to agree that he is indeed a dragon slayer. Yoojin Park, a hunter with purple hair, stumbles away from the table while Yoohyun desperately tries to explain that he actually knew her parents and that they had helped them after their own parents passed away. Yoojin, visibly sweating and desperate, confesses that he wanted to repay the debt even if it was too late, while the unnamed hunter with a laptop dismisses his plea as a lie. Suchun Park, the hunter with purple hair, looks down with a mix of relief and gratitude, admitting that Yoojin is okay and appreciates that he isn't trying to pretend nothing happened. She nervously thanks him for believing in her, her voice trembling slightly as she expresses her relief. The unnamed hunter, observing the scene, remarks that he was wondering how he could help, then notices that Yoojin might have some potential. Yoojin looks up, surprised by the comment, questioning what potential he could possibly have. The unnamed hunter explains his unique skill, which allows him to help others awaken their powers, before confidently predicting that Yoohyun Park will achieve the status of at least a B ranker. Yoohyun's hand sits quietly at the table, his expression somber as he holds his bowl and chopsticks, reflecting on the weight of his new responsibilities and the memories of the future he now carries. Yoojin explains that the Yoojin Guild is now backing him, offering a chance for anyone to Yoojin their career as a hunter. The unnamed hunter with a laptop approaches Yoojin, offering to become his sponsor if it is acceptable to him. The unnamed hunter leans forward with an eager expression, extending his hand to offer a contract that promises to transform Yoojin into a hunter. Yoojin Han stares in disbelief at the offer, questioning if he is truly a hunter, while his brother Suchun Han confirms with a serious demeanor that he is indeed one. The unnamed hunter with a laptop interrupts the conversation, urging the listener to read the contract terms first, while Yoojin prepares to add a touch of pizzazz to keep the target engaged. Yoojin Han, now an S-Rank Custodian, effortlessly absorbs the surrounding energy with a dazzling display of power, leaving the onlookers bewildered. "Whoa, how'd you do that? Is that what they call an inventory?" Someone exclaims in amazement at his sudden mastery. Yoohyun Park holds the scroll with a determined expression, declaring that signing it will bind the observer into an official agreement with her as the Ice Witch. Yoojin Han accepts the binding terms, agreeing to join the Yoohyun Guild upon awakening and serving as his brother Yoohyun's bodyguard for a year. He also agrees to keep his newly awakened S-rank skill a secret from everyone else. Yoojin Han complains about needing protection from his brother Yoohyun, who locks him up because he is an F-ranker, while Suchun Park mocks him for letting a teenager protect him. Suddenly, an unnamed hunter with a laptop stabs Yoojin, causing him to bleed from the mouth. Yoojin Han, now an S-Rank Custodian, is being scolded by his brother Yoohyun for getting in his way, while an unnamed hunter with a laptop stabs him, causing him to bleed from the mouth. Yoojin Han, now an S-Rank Custodian, is caught in a tense moment as he snatches a pen from an unnamed hunter, who protests that he only needs to write his name. Yoojin finishes reading the contract with a startled expression, realizing the unnamed hunter has not yet included his own terms in the agreement. Yoojin warns Suchun Park that she will be ripped off if she blindly signs the contract without negotiating her terms. He explains that she must carefully negotiate her terms whenever she signs any contracts, even if the legal jargon seems to go over her head. The unnamed hunter scribbles on a document, explaining that despite Yoojin's immense power, he still requires a legal guardian to manage his affairs. Yoojin warns that while going solo seems appealing, the real danger lies in the possibility of the guardian ripping him off. His younger brother, Yoohyun, looks on with concern, asking what he means by that. Suchun Park, a hunter with purple hair, expresses her frustration, stating that it's pointless for her own guardian to take advantage of her, and she refuses to accept any financial loss regardless of the contract status. Yoojin Han, now an S-Rank Custodian, is seen with clenched fists, questioning Yoohyun Park about her whereabouts. Meanwhile, Yoohyun Han, Yoojin's younger brother, angrily shouts for Yoohyun Park, expressing his frustration over her disappearance. Yoojin flinches as the unnamed hunter with a laptop shouts, revealing that they were informed of his arrival. The tension escalates as someone nearby nervously addresses the shouting man as Uncle. A man in a striped shirt storms into the restaurant, aggressively interrupting a nervous introduction and scolding the seated man for being on his shift. He threatens to punish the intruder for returning to the restaurant, while the purple-haired woman watches the commotion unfold. The man in the striped shirt aggressively yanks Suchun Park's arm, causing her to cry out in pain while she desperately pleads with him to calm down. The man in the striped shirt aggressively squeezes Soo-chun Park's arm, declaring that it is all about the gear while she cries out in pain and pleads for him to let go. The man in the striped shirt aggressively squeezes Soo-chun Park's arm, declaring that it is all about the gear while she cries out in pain and pleads for him to let go. Yoojin Han watches the scene unfold with a calm expression, his eyes reflecting a mix of concern and determination as he prepares to intervene. Yoojin stands with a composed demeanor, his arms crossed as he observes the unfolding situation with a calm yet determined expression. Yoojin Han, now an S-Rank Custodian, observes the chaotic scene with a calm demeanor as his brother Yoohyun scolds him for returning to dungeons. The unnamed hunter with a laptop watches the unfolding drama, while Yoojin accepts his confinement to protect Yoohyun's reputation. Yoohyun scolds Soo-chun Park, telling her she would be better off without the jerk as her guardian, while Yoojin stands silently beside her. Yoojin Han, now an S-Rank Custodian, stands silently beside Soo-chun Park as Yoohyun scolds her, his hands clasped tightly in restraint to suppress his overwhelming power. Soo-chun Park, a hunter with purple hair, angrily points an accusing finger at Yoojin, shouting that he took all of her parents' money and never gave her a penny. She continues her tirade, claiming that during the typhoon, he only tossed her a cheap plastic umbrella. Yoojin recounts how he was forced to use a plastic bag to stay dry after his umbrella broke, prompting a murmur of shock from the surrounding hunters who question if this constitutes child abuse. A man in a striped polo shirt shouts aggressively, demanding someone move out of his way and threatening them with a curse. The man in the striped shirt aggressively lunges forward, shouting a curse as he collides with the seated hunter, while Soo-chun Park cowers in fear from the sudden impact. Soo-chun Park, her face contorted in shock, stammers "Mister," as she looks up at the man in the striped shirt, who recoils in disbelief and shouts, "Huh?" Yoojin slumps against the wall, murmuring incoherently as the unnamed hunter rushes forward, concern etched on his face as he asks, "You okay, mister?" The striped shirt man lunges forward with a violent strike, his expression twisted in rage as he attempts to assault Soo-chun, while Yoojin braces himself to intercept the attack. The striped shirt man's violent strike is intercepted by Yoojin, who braces himself to shield Soo-chun from the assault. As the impact lands, a shocked voice cries out, "Mister." Yoojin sits quietly in the corner of the room, his expression somber as he listens to the murmurs of the unnamed hunter with a laptop, who seems to be discussing the guild's recent activities. Yoojin winces in pain as the unnamed hunter with a laptop strikes him, shouting that he is being beaten for no reason. The abusive guardian, a man in a striped shirt, violently grabs Soo-chun Park by the horns of her demonic beast form, causing her to scream in terror as she is forcibly rolled across the floor. Yoojin, who had been beaten by the hunter earlier, now looks on in distress as he shouts that he didn't do anything, while Soo-chun's guardian continues his assault on her. Yoojin, battered and kneeling on the floor, desperately pleads with the unnamed hunter, asking why he had to hit him and begging to just talk things through instead. The hunter, however, shouts back that he was only trying to protect the girl, accusing Yoojin of intending to beat her like a fragile little girl. The striped shirt man, Soo-chun's abusive guardian, roars in fury at Yoojin, shouting that he has had enough of his Yoojin before lunging forward to attack him. The striped shirt man lunges forward with a roar, his fist connecting with Yoojin's face in a violent clash that sends the protagonist stumbling backward. The striped shirt man's fist connects with Yoojin's face, sending him stumbling backward as the impact echoes through the room. The striped shirt man's punch sends Clack tumbling backward, but he quickly recovers to warn the unnamed hunter that the floor is slippery from spilled soda. The striped shirt man's punch sends Yoojin tumbling backward, but he quickly recovers to warn the unnamed hunter that the floor is slippery from spilled soda. Yoojin, having just recovered from the striped shirt man's punch, warns the unnamed hunter that the floor is slippery from spilled soda. Soo-chun Park, meanwhile, is caught in the chaos, complaining about kimchi getting up her nose while Yoohyun looks on with concern. Yoojin pins the abusive striped shirt man to the ground, his hand pressing down on the man's head as he threatens him with a sizzling hot pan. The man struggles beneath him, screaming for Yoojin to let him go, while Yoojin warns him never to treat Soo-chun like that again. The loud asterisk bam of a table slamming into the floor echoes through the room, startling the unnamed hunter who asks, "What was that?" while Soo-chun Park excitedly exclaims, "Wow, you really slammed his face right into the table, like a pro wrestler." Yoojin quickly denies the claim, shouting, "That wasn't me," as he attempts to explain that the noise came from elsewhere. The loud asterisk boom of the table slamming into the floor echoes through the room, startling the unnamed hunter who asks, "What was that?" while Suchun Park excitedly exclaims, "Wow, you really slammed his face right into the table, like a pro wrestler." Yoojin quickly denies the claim, shouting, "That wasn't me," as he attempts to explain that the noise came from elsewhere. Mr. Han shouts, "Mr. Han," as he looks on in shock while the sound of a door slamming echoes with a loud asterisk clack. The chaotic scene erupts as the unnamed hunter shouts, "Let's get you somewhere safe. There's a monster out there," while a massive, fiery explosion engulfs the area, forcing the group to flee the night market in panic. The unnamed hunter shouts, "Let's get you somewhere safe. There's a monster out there," as a massive, fiery explosion engulfs the area, forcing the group to flee the night market in panic. Rachitas, the Dragon King of Venom, unleashes a cataclysmic explosion of fire and debris, his serpentine neck coiling violently as he roars in defiance against the hunter's desperate escape. The unnamed hunter shouts in alarm, warning that a dungeon break has occurred nearby as chaos erupts around them. The unnamed beast, a terrifying shadowy bear-like creature with glowing white eyes and sharp teeth, roars menacingly as chaos erupts around the hunters. The chaos of the dungeon break intensifies as a terrified man in a brown suit shouts for everyone to get back, warning that the situation is too dangerous. Behind him, a shocked hunter with a laptop and a purple-haired woman watch in horror as the reality of the crisis unfolds. Yoojin Han, now an S-Rank Custodian, activates a glowing golden barrier to buy time for his allies amidst the chaos. Rachitas, the Dragon King of Venom and Curse, unleashes a devastating strike as the ground shatters beneath his serpentine form, his glowing green eyes burning with malice. The massive dragon, Rachitas, unleashes a devastating strike as the ground shatters beneath his serpentine form, his glowing green eyes burning with malice. Yoojin Han, now an S-Rank Custodian, unleashes a blinding burst of golden energy as he slams his fist into the ground, shattering the earth beneath him in a display of overwhelming power. The shockwave radiates outward, sending debris flying and silencing the surrounding chaos as he stands firm against the dragon's assault. Yoojin Han activates his newly acquired A-rank defensive skill, Terra Shield, as a blinding burst of golden energy erupts from the ground to shatter the earth beneath him. The shockwave radiates outward, silencing the surrounding chaos as he stands firm against the dragon's assault. The earth violently erupts beneath Rachitas as the ground shatters outward in a massive explosion, sending debris and embers flying into the air. Mr. Han shouts urgently for the others to seize the opportunity and flee to safety as chaos erupts around them. Yoojin, his eyes wide with shock and a bead of sweat forming on his brow, questions if he has ever experienced such a phenomenon in his past life and wonders where the monster originated. He then asks if a dungeon break occurred in the neighborhood around this time, while the unnamed hunter with a laptop looks on. Mr. Han, clad in a sharp suit, crouches low to the ground with a determined expression, shouting "Go!" to urge his allies forward as they face the looming threat of the dungeon break. Yoojin Han launches himself forward with explosive speed, his determined expression focused on the looming threat as the word "dash" echoes through the air. In the background, Suchun Park and the unnamed hunter watch in shock as he charges to intercept the danger. Yoojin Han dashes forward with explosive speed, his determined expression focused on the looming threat as the word "dash" echoes through the air. In the background, Suchun Park and the unnamed hunter watch in shock as he charges to intercept the danger. Rachitas, the Dragon King of Venom and Curse, unleashes a devastating strike that shatters the rocky terrain, his serpentine neck coiling with immense power as he prepares to crush his enemies. Rachitas unleashes a devastating strike that shatters the rocky terrain, his serpentine neck coiling with immense power as he prepares to crush his enemies. Yoojin unleashes a devastating counterattack, his fist colliding with the shadowy beast and sending a shockwave of golden energy that shatters the rocky terrain. Rachitas, the Dragon King of Venom and Curse, unleashes a terrifying serpentine strike, his massive body coiling around his adversary with a sound that echoes like a slithering shadow. The beast's immense power is evident as he wraps his serpentine neck around the hunter, showcasing the overwhelming intimidation aura that radiates from his terrifying form. A massive, shadowy dragon-like beast with glowing green eyes and a serpentine neck, representing the Dragon King of Venom and Curse, unleashes a terrifying serpentine strike, his massive body coiling around his adversary with a sound that echoes like a slithering shadow. The beast's immense power is evident as he wraps his serpentine neck around the hunter, showcasing the overwhelming intimidation aura that radiates from his terrifying form. The dragon's serpentine strike slams into the rocky terrain with a deafening asterisk whoosh, sending debris flying as the beast's massive coils tighten around its prey. Nearby, The striped shirt man is knocked back by the shockwave, while Yoojin and Yoohyun intervene to shield Suchun Park from the dragon's overwhelming intimidation aura. The striped shirt man screams in terror as a massive force breaches the wall, while Suchun Park looks on in shock, bewildered by the sudden chaos erupting around them. Yoojin Han stumbles over a loose cable, his foot catching on the wire as he rushes to intervene in the chaotic confrontation. The sudden trip sends him crashing forward, but he quickly recovers to shield Suchun Park from the striped shirt man's aggressive advance. The striped shirt man screams in terror as he is suddenly propelled backward, tumbling away from the chaotic scene. Suchun Park, the Ice Witch, lies exhausted on the ground, her expression a mix of pain and disbelief as she mutters, "Ugh," while the chaotic energy of the battle swirls around her, marked by the sound of whoosh as debris and magical effects continue to fly through the air. Suchun Park lies defeated on the ground, her purple hair disheveled as she gasps in disbelief at the overwhelming force that just struck her. The sound of a massive metallic impact, clang, echoes through the air, signaling the sudden and brutal end to her struggle. The massive impact of the Red Dragon Greatsword shatters the striped shirt man's defense, sending him flying backward as Yoojin's suppressed S-Rank power unleashes a devastating blow that leaves Suchun Park in disbelief. Yoojin, now an S-Rank Custodian, unleashes a devastating blow that shatters the abusive guardian's defense, leaving Suchun Park in disbelief as the Ice Witch, Yoohyun Park, watches in awe. Suchun Park, her purple hair disheveled and eyes wide with shock, cries out in disbelief as the abusive guardian is suddenly incapacitated by an overwhelming force. Yoojin shouts urgently for Suchun to flee and seek immediate shelter as the chaotic battle intensifies around them. Suchun, caught off guard by the sudden escalation, cries out in shock as she is forced to run for her life. Yoojin urgently shouts for Suchun to flee and seek immediate shelter as the chaotic battle intensifies around them. Suchun, caught off guard by the sudden escalation, cries out in shock as she is forced to run for her life. Yoojin's protective aura envelops Suchun Park as she stumbles, her purple hair disheveled from the intense battle, while the menacing figure of her abusive guardian looms nearby. Yoojin confirms that the underground shopping center is indeed a shelter, prompting the unnamed hunter to immediately dash toward the location. Yoojin, now an S-Rank Custodian, dashes toward the underground shopping center to confront the threat, while the unnamed hunter urges him to hurry. Yoojin Han, now an S-Rank Custodian, recognizes the monstrous entity before him, recalling its terrifying visage from a future timeline. As the beast unleashes its chaotic assault, Yoojin prepares to intervene, his new S-Rank power ready to shield his brother and the world from this ancient threat. While each individual monster isn't that strong, they behave as a colony and can be quite a pain in the neck if you don't take them out all at once. Sunghyun Kim's defensive abilities are tailored for protection rather than offense, meaning he lacks an area attack skill to clear out large groups of enemies at once. Yoojin unleashes a devastating punch, shattering the stone wall before him with a force that sends debris flying outward in a violent explosion. The impact is so powerful that it nearly knocks him back, but his S-Rank Custodian status allows him to withstand the recoil effortlessly. The unnamed hunter realizes that his current strategy will not be effective against the formidable monster they are facing. Yoojin, now an S-Rank Custodian, finds himself confined indoors by his brother Yoohyun to protect him from the world's attention. Despite his new power, he remains focused on recruiting hunters and preparing for the threats that lie ahead. Yoojin grips the arm of the unnamed hunter, pleading for assistance as he desperately seeks to awaken his newfound powers. Yoojin grips the arm of the unnamed hunter, pleading for assistance as he desperately seeks to awaken his newfound powers. The unnamed hunter, however, is quick to shut him down, reminding him that he hasn't even signed the contract yet. The unnamed hunter scoffs at Yoojin's sudden awakening, mocking him for believing that his new status will instantly make him a formidable fighter. Yoojin explains that his offer was to awaken powers safely, not to throw him into battle immediately, while the unnamed hunter scoffs at his sudden S-Rank status. Yoojin urges the unnamed hunter to let the grown-ups handle the situation for now, commanding him to get himself to safety immediately. Yoojin, now an S-Rank Custodian, stands resolute as he reflects on his 5 years of experience, realizing that his new power and status have fundamentally altered his destiny. Hunter Kim, a trusted A-Rank hunter, is visibly stunned as he recognizes the figure standing before him, exclaiming, "Hunter Kim." Mr. Han urgently warns Yoojin about the immediate danger, shouting for him to activate his shield skill as a massive, fiery beast charges through the collapsing structure. Yoojin, realizing the shield is insufficient to protect the entire neighborhood, declares that his current defensive capability is actually enough to handle the immediate threat. Yoojin declares that he has a plan to handle the situation, catching the unnamed hunter off guard with his sudden confidence.